I think that, you know, when you've proved it to yourself that you can do it, and I did early on, but you know, there was the other side of things when I went out against Australia that I didn't, and I bagged a pair in my first test against Australia, and that was quite a downfall. So I think you build up confidence, and you know that you've done it. So you know, if you play well enough, that you hope you can do it again, but you don't have that doubt in the back of your mind. But I always did. I felt the pressure a lot more when I went to play for Australia, because I got off to a bad start with them, whereas obviously West Indies, I was very lucky. I just played, and I scored runs against them. I mean, in '74, that was just, we played on beautiful wickets in West Indies. They were absolutely wonderful to bat on if you got over the new ball. They did have some fast bowlers, yeah, but I always say the only way to play fast bowling is give a batsman a flat track, because it's a bit easier playing fast bowling on a flatter wicket than it is with something that's got pace and bounce in it, like the Australian wickets. But anyway, so I got off to a good start with West Indies, and felt, you didn't feel that added extra pressure that I felt against Australia.
Okay. Now, your first test, England had been pretty well beaten in the previous test, so it was a big clear out. New captain Brian Close, and you come in '66, the last test. Tell us about the instructions that he gave on the night before the test to bowl, how to bowl at Gary Sobers, and who was involved in that, because that's a great story.
Closey was captain. We'd gone 3-0 down in the series after 4 test matches. From the 5th test match at the Oval, I was brought in. They named an 11, and Tony Lewis was named as 12th man. So it wasn't to select from 12. I knew I was playing. And Jim, when I got to the ground, I mean, I got my sweaters and my England cap, and I thought, my gosh, this is it. This is it. But now you've really got to do it. You're in the England squad, and I was so proud of getting those sweaters. I went to bed in them, and you can ask Ken Higgs that. Higgsy was my roomie, and he couldn't believe it that I put both my England sweaters on and my England cap and went to bed in them. That was really special. But the team meeting the night before, Closey was talking, going through their batters, how we should bowl at the batters, where we should bowl. And he came to Gary Sobers, and he said, Snowy, he said, I want you to bounce in first ball. And Snowy said, on that oval wicket, skipper, it'll go straight over the gas holders. And he said, I don't care. First ball, you will bounce him. And I should be there at short square leg. So Snowy came in when Gary came out to bat, and he ran in and he bowled this bouncer, which didn't bounce. And Gary was there a little bit too soon and got a bit high. And he got an underneath edge that hit his thigh and lobbed up. And who should be there looking when he could get smashed in the face from the ball off the bat was Closey, who just went, thank you very much. Bad luck, Gary, off you go. Well, ball Snowy. And that's how we got rid of Gary. But of course, the crowd didn't like it that much, because they come to see the great man probably score some runs. And I think I ran him out in a test match as well. I'm not quite sure whether it was that test match. A bit unlucky to get run out by me, but I hit the wickets, and there was such a quietness in the ground. I couldn't believe it. I think it was at the Oval, so it must have been second innings, I think. And but they'd come to see him bat, not to see Amiss run him out, throw the wickets down. But anyway, I mean, he got us lots of other times, Gary, and Closey was that sort of captain. You know, he was fierce, wasn't he? He was brave, and he liked things like that. Yeah.
Jim, we've lost you.
It's all right. Okay, sorry. Dennis, I'm sorry about that. My mute wasn't done. But your first experiences of Test cricket, you've talked about not really feeling you belonged in that. And I wonder what you feel about the difference, whether central contracts have made a big difference to players feeling that they are a part of a system. So perhaps you talk a little bit about how you felt when you first arrived on the England scene, and whether it would have been different today with central contracts and being, if you like, acknowledged in a broader way?
I was very much for central contracts and supporting central contracts for many reasons, for batting and bowling. But yes, I mean, I was playing with such great players, and you know, I'd watched them over the years. You know, people like Colin Cowdrey and Tom Gravely and Ken Barrington when I first played. There were such marvelous players. I never thought I would ever be as good as them. So I did feel a little bit or quite insecure when I went out to play with them. Basil D'Oliveira was playing that that first Test match. So I was quite overawed by it and terribly tense and very, very, very nervous. But the more you play, and hopefully you get a chance where you can. I got a 50, I think, against Pakistan shortly after that, which gave me the confidence that, you know, well, I could do it. Could I go on from there and score hundreds? But I think the major thing was that gave me the real confidence was changing from a middle order player to opening, which came a year or two later.
Yeah.
In 1972, when I was left out of the side early on in the season and told to go and get runs in the second team, which I duly did. And the two openers were John Jameson and John Whitehouse, who weren't scoring runs. We weren't doing too badly in the championship at that time, but they weren't scoring any runs. And I asked Alan Smith if I could open, because that's the only way I could see myself getting back in the first team. And I said, not only that, I'd like 3 matches. I do not just want 1 match. I want 3 matches, which gave me the confidence. And I went out against Middlesex, and they had John Price storming in and Fred Titmus, and they had a good side in those days. But I managed. I can remember the first ball from John Price. I missed it. It just missed the edge of the bat. Another occasion, you nick it, don't you? And you're gone, and you've got naught. And I just thought, you know, just missed it, and I went on to score some runs, and consequently
But one of the things, Dennis, about your taking on the role of opener, you didn't just take on the role of opener, you actually prepared for that very carefully. Once AC Smith had agreed that you were going to get the opportunity to open. Yeah. Tell everyone about what you actually did to prepare. You didn't just put on the pads. What did you do to make sure that you were attuned to facing, I mean, not just John Price, but Mike Selvey, who could bowl a bit as well, which is going to be the opening pair.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I said to David Brown and Bob Willis, I said, AC's given me a chance to open the innings, and would you mind coming and bowling at me in the indoor cricket centre, which is quite bouncy, quite quick and bouncy, with new balls, so that I could get used to opening. And they said, yeah, we'll give it a go. So they did, and they came in, and you know, for about half an hour or a little bit longer, they bowled quite quickly at me in the fastest lane of the indoor cricket centre at Edgbaston, and I nicked 1 or 2, but I got a bit of confidence, and I didn't feel that the new ball was you've got to leave it as much as you possibly can when you first go in with a new ball, because it does bounce a bit. But I played reasonably against them, and I just thought, no, come on, you can do it. So I got that little bit of confidence that I needed and that practice, and out we went against Middlesex. Yeah.
And you got 151 against Middlesex. The next game you got 150 against Worcester, and then you got 192 against Lancashire, and then 100 against Kent. So it worked. I mean, AC Smith must have had a smile on his face after that, Dennis.
It was good, wasn't it? Listen, I was a very, very lucky. I had a fantastic career, both playing and administratively, and those are just great moments when you're playing well and you're batting. And I loved batting. I just loved it. I mean, Tiger Smith, one of my first coaches, Dreef Taylor was my first coach. Beautiful left-arm spinner that he was, half volleys. Tiger Smith came to me. He was a bit more cruel, a bit more stern, and he used to say to me, "When you've got 100, take your guard again and get 150. He said, when you get 150, take your guard again and get 200. And when you get 200, he said, take your guard again and get 250. He said, because there'll be plenty of times when you get your naught and your ones. And he said, you've got to make up for those when you're playing really well and things are going for you. Make sure you get big ones. And that always stuck in my mind. And the fast bowlers, you know, they love it when they get you out for naught, don't they? Well, you know, there's nothing better than being there at 6 o'clock in the evening with them coming up, not quite so quick off the mark or through the crease. And, you know, sometimes you felt, oh, I've got them now. I'm not going to let this go. And they're just marvelous times. I mean, you're out in the sun, you're doing something that you're good at. I mean, you know, as MJK Smith always said to me, it's better than that 4-letter word work. And it was, wasn't it? Doing something in the fresh air that we fortunately we were good at. It was just wonderful. But then, you know, you get your bad times, and no doubt you'll come to some more of those as we go on. And there are plenty of them, and you have to fight your way back all the time. You know, you get down, you get depressed, you wonder whether you can carry on sometimes. And we'll come to those. But when you're doing like that, those 3 or 4 centuries on the trot, that is wonderful.
Yeah. And you talk about Tiger Smith and Dreef Taylor. But you went on the MCC under-25 tour, which was really the England tour of the winter, to Pakistan to play against their under-25 side. And you scored a stack of runs there. And your manager there was Les Ames.
Yeah.
And I'll just say to everybody, when as a young player at Kent, Les Ames used to say, if you want to know how to build an innings, go to Edgbaston and watch Dennis Amiss bat. But he talked to you on that tour about batting, didn't he? And about the gear,
he was the man that scored 100 hundreds.
Yeah.
And so we looked up to him, and he played for England many times. So he talked to me about batting. He was saying the same thing as Tiger, you know, get yourself in, and when you're in, don't ever throw it away. And they both said the same things to me. You bat and bat and bat until they make up for those times when things do go wrong, and they do, and you feel out of control and you feel whether you should carry on. But he was a lovely, lovely man, Les Ames. I felt I had confidence. I think that helps when your manager and your captain have got confidence in you. And I had the feeling that Les Ames thought I could play. And that was a big thing for me on that tour. And we had a Saturday night club, which I don't know whether they still have them. They probably don't, but where we'd have a couple of barmen, we'd have the chairman of the evening, and we'd all take it in turns. And I can remember that the barmen have to organise the food, and of course we weren't into too many curries at that stage, under 25s, but so we had fried eggs on toast, and it was there was a few drinks from the High Commission party that we'd gone to the previous evening, and we managed to get a beer or two. And these eggs were being thrown about, and I can remember David Brown went to throw some eggs at Robin Hobbs, and Hobbsy ducked, and it hit Les Ames in the middle of the face. but it was he laughed, you know, he just laughed, and there was egg coming all down his face, egg on his face, my God! But he was such a lovely man; he took it all in good spirit, and that was a very happy tour. With Mike Brewley as captain, David Brown as vice captain of Warwickshire, my mate DJ Brown, and it was a good side. We had Richard Hutton in it, didn't we? Tony Windows, Michael Buss, Bissix from Gloucester, Alan Ormrod, Worcester, brilliant eye open and Ormrod. But David Brown, it was a good team.
Yeah. And if we move on to 73 and the New Zealand tour and Trent Bridge, and it was the first experience of opening the batting with Geoffrey Boycott, and you've been given a warning, hadn't you, by MJK before the Test match?
I had. He said to me, he was my captain at Warwickshire, he said, look, Geoffrey Boycott has a bad reputation of running his partners out. Don't get run out. There's so many other ways of getting out. Bowled, stumped, caught, LBW. Don't let him run you out. So in that split second, we'd had some hiccups in the first innings, and the second innings, I hit one off Dick Collins to mid-off. There was no mid-off there, but they had Pollard who was sort of covering mid-off. And as I hit it, I went past Geoffrey and I said 2. I thought there was 2 there, but Pollard was so quick onto it. But by the time we touched down, he'd got the ball in his hand. And I turned and I said, no, Geoffrey. And I'm sure he could hear me because the crowd weren't going mad at this stage. And no, and he kept coming. And I was out of my ground and he was just about to overtake me when MJK's words came back to me. Don't let him run you out. And so I put my bat back in my crease. And unfortunately, he was run out. Well, I was amazed to hear I was born out of wedlock by Fiery. And I said, well, I'm sorry, Fiery, you've got to go. And off he went. And the lads told me later that I was lucky. I went on to score some runs. And the lads told me in the dressing room, he was heard to say on many occasions, look at the bugger, he's scoring all my runs. And he threatened to run me out in the next test match at Lord's. And I went to Railingworth. I thought, what chance have I got? 2 Yorkshiremen. And Geoffrey was Ray's best batter. And I said, Captain, he's threatening to run me out. I said, we'll sort it out the night before the first day's play, after dinner. So in those days, we'd have dinner with the chairman of the selectors, all the other selectors. They would tell us how they thought we could win the match. They would then leave. Raymond would say, forget what they've said. That's not the way we're going to play. We're going to play my way. And he had his own instructions to us, Raymond. So we went out he said, Dennis and Geoffrey, he said, come on, let's sort this out. And all the players rushed to the door to listen to what the captain was going to say to his 2 opening bats, one of which was thrown to run the other one out at Lord's on the first day's play, if we batted. And he said, right, we're going to sort this out now, Geoffrey. And Geoffrey started to walk down the stairs and Raymond said, Geoffrey, you'll come back now or you'll never play for England again as long as I'm captain. And those were his words. And I thought, blimey, he's backing me against his number 1 batter. And it's all in the book.
Yeah.
And Geoffrey knows I tell this story. And of course, over the years, it's got embellished. I mean, we had hiccups and I said, good luck to him. He said, it's nothing about ability and I've got it. And we didn't have a run out, but maybe I got out early on or something like that. But I can remember us being in South Africa 40 years later, and every time I saw him, he'd always say, I'd have scored 150 hundreds if you hadn't run me out in that test match. And anyway, 40 years later, we were in South Africa and we were at the Lord's Taverners party at the castle there, and it's a beautiful evening, having a glass of champagne, and Rachel says, Jeff's wife, my wife, and I went up to Geoffrey and I said, Geoffrey, good evening and everything. And then the master senator says, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Dinner is served. And I don't know why. Instead of saying, come on, I said, come on. He said, you said 2. I said, Geoffrey, that's 50 years ago now. But,
wow.
But every time we see one another, we pull one another's legs. And he's done the forward in the book, as you know. And that's a nice tribute. And that was good. So, but every time I see him or talk to him now, he still says, 150 hundreds as a guarantee. If you want to run me out of Cambridge in 1974.